Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Vickie's Country Home. One of my subscribers left me a comment asking for a recommendation. Now, I'm no pro, but I know what I like, things that go together. She's going to make a roasted 4-peppercorn tri-tip for Christmas, and she asked what I thought would go well with it. I have recently found a recipe that sounded really good, and I have tried it, and it is really good. It's full of flavor, and I think it goes perfectly with the tri-tip. So I'm gonna test it. So I am making the tri-tip tonight, but that's not what this video is about. I'm going to make crispy Parmesan roasted potatoes, and I found the recipe online. I'm making some minor changes to it, and I got that recipe from recipe10eats.com, TINEATS.com. So I'm gonna make that, and I'm gonna make the tri-tip and see how they go together. That way she'll know if it's a good combination for her Christmas dinner before it gets here. So let's get started. All right, what we're gonna use is, I like Yukon Gold. You can use any kind of, preferably the baby potatoes. When I went looking for them, they didn't have the baby Yukon Golds, but they did have these fingerling, which that's a really big finger. I don't know, but that's what they call these long, thin ones. So I'm going to use these instead of the baby ones, but if you've got the baby ones, use those. They will come out better, I believe. And so you clean them up, and all you want to do, since these are not the baby potatoes, I'm going to cut them in pieces about the size of a half of a baby Yukon. Now, if you have the baby Yukons, all you need to do is probably cut them in half, and that will be a good size. But since I have these fingerling, I'm just going to cut them in just smaller pieces. And I'm going to go through and do this to all of them, and I'm cutting off any bad spots. I don't want those in there. And they put these in a bag so you can't tell till you get them anyway. And this one is going to make a number of pieces because it's just huge. So we're just going to go through and do this to all of them. Now this is 1.5 pounds of fingerling Yukon potatoes, but whether it's fingerling or the baby, you need about 1.5 pounds. So I'm going to get these all cut up, then we'll come back and I'll show you what we do next. All right, the next step I'm going to do is to mix up the Parmesan and the spices. Now the recipe calls for the refrigerated Parmesan cheese from the grocery store, and it specifically calls for what she calls the sanded type. So it's fine grated, it's not shredded. But you know what? I want to mix it, and I have enough to do it. Actually, I have more than this. I have enough to use just the fine grated. But I want to try mixing some of this along with the shredded, so we're going to see how that works. So I'll put about half of it of the sanded type. And then I have the type that is the fine shreds. So I'm going to add that as the second part. And we'll see how it comes out. So we'll add that to this cute little mixing bowl that my friend Mary at Mary's Nest gave me. I love this, and I'm using it. It's great. All right, what we're going to add next, she calls for only half a teaspoon of either dried oregano or thyme. I couldn't decide, so I'm going to use half a teaspoon of both. And I did this when I made it before, and you know what? I thought it was great. In fact, that's closer to a teaspoon of thyme. So we're going to use that. We're going to use half a teaspoon of paprika, more or less. And we're going to use a quarter teaspoon of salt, and you don't need a whole lot, so because the Parmesan is salty, so you don't want to add too much. And I'm going to add, it calls for a half teaspoon of granulated garlic. I'm pretty sure y'all know me, so we're gonna go a teaspoon. You never have enough garlic, just don't. And about half a teaspoon or so of black pepper, and you can fresh grind. This is just coarsely grated. And now all I'm going to do is combine those well. This really is an easy recipe, and it's so good. I'm glad she asked me this, because it gave me the impetus to go buy what I needed and to make it. So I'm going to set that aside for just a moment. Now you need a 13x9 baking pan, and about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Let me add a little more. I don't think that's quite enough. And just twist and turn the pan and make sure you've got it, the bottom very well coated. And you'll see why in just a moment. So sorry, it may not be facing you, but I'm trying to get it coated. All right, I think that the entire bottom's coated. Now the fun part. We're gonna take this wonderful Parmesan cheese mixture, and you wanna you can spoon it. I'm gonna use my fingers. I've already touched everything. And they're clean. So you just want to evenly drop it on the bottom of the pan. You don't want to go back with a spoon and move it around, because it just won't work. So just take your time, spread it out. And it's going to give it a pretty good coating across the bottom. Okay. And now all you have to do is you take all those wonderful little potato pieces, and if they're half, you put the cut side down. And of course mine aren't all halves, so some of them are going to be open on top. But you just lay them out in the pan. And I thought this wasn't going to work very well when I made it before, but you know what? It actually came out pretty close. So I'm just going to finish laying these all out in my baking pan, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the next step. And I want you to look. that is 1.5 pounds potatoes, and it almost perfectly fills this pan. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take some olive oil and just drizzle across the top. And nobody said this was low calorie. That doesn't seem to matter to me on Christmas Day. And then we're gonna take just a little salt and sprinkle across the top, because the tops aren't gonna be seasoned at all. It's not very much. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we are going to put this in a preheated oven at 400 degrees, and we're just gonna let this cook. So I'll bring you back when this is all finished, and it's probably gonna be at least 35 to 40 minutes. Now, I am going to be cooking the tri-tip. So this is where it's gonna get a little tricky, because that starts at a high temp and then you lower it down to a low temp. So I'm starting this a bit ahead of time, and I'm gonna finish it off at a lower temperature. So we'll see how this comes out. All right, I baked this for 35 to 40 minutes. I actually did a little longer because I reduced the temperature in the oven to allow for the tri-tip. So what you're looking for is this deep golden brown on the bottom. And you're also looking for these potatoes to be really tender. So what you do now is just break them up. And what you've got is this wonderful tender potato, but you've got the crusty, cheesy bottom on the, and they're just so good. Let me plate this up and we'll take a taste. All right, here we are. So I have my roasted 4 peppercorn tri-tip with pan juices and made into a sauce, crispy Parmesan potatoes, and I also suggested my lemon garlic green beans because I thought these would all go wonderful together. So we're gonna try these potatoes. And this is the top of them. This is the bottom, and this is all the Parmesan and all of those wonderful herbs. Let's taste. And you can make a dipping sauce with sour cream and green onions if you like. And that was good. You can also experiment. I think it would be good with ranch. I think it's good without. So we wanted to see if this is good with the tri-tip. So let's take a taste of that. Those flavors are wonderful together. And if you want to go overboard, here's my lemon garlic green beans that I canned up. All of these work so well together. So you know who you are. Here's your answer, and they are wonderful. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share. Please hit the notification bell and get notified of all my videos. All of these things help me. God bless, and we'll talk again soon.